Hi everyone, welcome to NEET Biology channel. Which plant releases pollen in mucilaginous strands underwater? A. Lotus. B. Zostera. C. Eichhornia. D. Vallisneria. Correct answer is B. Zostera. Explanation: Zostera, a marine angiosperm commonly known as eelgrass, is adapted to underwater pollination, hydrophily. It releases pollen in mucilaginous strands that can float and remain viable underwater, facilitating fertilization in a saline aquatic environment. Lotus and Eichhornia are aquatic but not marine, and they use biotic agents like insects. Vallisneria is also hydrophilous, but uses water currents to carry pollen to the stigma rather than mucilage. Thus, only Zostera uniquely employs mucilaginous pollen release underwater. What characteristic is common in most vine-pollinated flowers? A. Bright color. B. Large petals. C. Well-exposed stamens. D. Fleshy fruits. Correct answer is C. Well-exposed stamens. Explanation: vine-pollinated, anemophilous, flowers typically have well-exposed stamens so that pollen can be easily carried away by air currents. Bright colors and large petals are adaptations for attracting animal pollinators and are unnecessary in wind pollination. Fleshy fruits are related to seed dispersal rather than the pollination mechanism. Therefore, the presence of well-exposed stamens is a defining feature of vine-pollinated plants to ensure effective pollen release. Who are pollination agents in entomophily? A. Wind. B. Water. C. Insects. D. Birds. Correct answer is C. Insects. Explanation: Entomophily refers to pollination by insects such as bees, butterflies, and beetles. These pollinators are attracted to flowers by features like color, scent, and nectar. Wind and water are abiotic pollination agents and belong to anemophily and hydrophily, respectively. Birds are biotic agents too, but bird-mediated pollination is termed ornithophily. Therefore, insects are the exclusive agents in entomophily. Chasmogamous flowers are: A. Always closed. B. Open for exposure of reproductive parts. C. Insect repelling. D. Without stamens. Correct answer is B. Open for exposure of reproductive parts. Explanation: Chasmogamous flowers open at maturity, exposing their reproductive structures, anthers and stigma, for pollination, often by external agents like insects or wind. This promotes cross-pollination. The opposite type, Cleistogamous flowers, remain closed and promote self-pollination. The terms insect repelling or without stamens are unrelated to the Chasmogamous phenomenon, which is purely about flower openness for pollination. Anemophilous flowers often lack: A. Nectar. B. Pollen. C. Stigma. D. Anther. Correct answer is A. Nectar. Explanation: vine-pollinated flowers, anemophilous, typically do not produce nectar, as they don't need to attract pollinators. They rely entirely on air currents for pollen transfer. In contrast, nectar is a reward for biotic agents like insects or birds. These flowers do possess pollen, often in large quantities, stigmas, usually large and feathery, and anthers, usually well exposed, making the absence of nectar the correct answer. Biotic pollination accounts for what percentage in flowering plants? A. 10%, B. 20%, C. 60%, D. 80%. Correct answer is D. 80%. Explanation: around 80% of all angiosperms rely on biotic agents, such as insects, birds, and bats, for pollination. This high percentage reflects the evolutionary advantage of targeted, efficient pollen transfer. The remaining 20% includes abiotic pollination methods like wind and water. Therefore, the correct and widely accepted value supported by botanical studies is 80%. Which plant uses explosive mechanism for pollination? A. Zostera, B. Balsam, C. Rose, D. Madge. Correct answer is B. Balsam. Explanation: balsam, impatiens, uses an explosive pollination mechanism where ripe anthers burst open, forcefully releasing pollen, which is then dispersed to nearby flowers, often with the help of insects. Zostera employs hydrophily, not explosion. Rose relies on insect pollination through attraction, and Madge uses wind pollination with no explosive mechanism. Thus, only balsam demonstrates explosive dehiscence. What is not true for wind-pollinated plants? A. Sticky pollen, B. Non-showy flowers, C. Long, feathery stigma, D. Exposed stamens. Correct answer is A. Sticky pollen. Explanation: wind-pollinated plants have dry, lightweight, and non-sticky pollen to facilitate easy movement by air. Sticky pollen is an adaptation found in biotic pollination to adhere to pollinators. Other options, non-showy flowers, feathery stigmas, to capture airborne pollen, and exposed stamens, are all traits that enhance wind pollination efficiency. Hence, the incorrect statement is the presence of sticky pollen. What is the main disadvantage of self-pollination? A. Faster growth, B. No seed formation, C. No or less variation, D. Larger offspring. Correct answer is C. No or less variation. Explanation: self-pollination involves the transfer of pollen within the same flower or plant, leading to limited genetic recombination. This results in reduced genetic variability, making populations more vulnerable to diseases and environmental changes. Faster growth or larger offspring are not guaranteed by self-pollination, and seeds are usually formed, though with less diversity. The primary evolutionary drawback is the lack of variation. Pollination by birds is called A. Entomophily, B. Chiropterophily, C. Ornithophily, D. Anemophily. Correct answer is C. Ornithophily. Explanation: ornithophily is the term for bird-mediated pollination. Flowers adapted for this have bright colors, tubular shapes, and often produce abundant nectar to attract birds. Entomophily is insect pollination, Chiropterophily refers to pollination by bats, and Anemophily is wind pollination. Therefore, pollination specifically carried out by birds is correctly termed ornithophily.